Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. We are taking a look today at some really good stuff going on in Detroit this season. The Red Wings have been bad. We know that. But despite not getting first overall picks, it's been frustrating. They didn't get Alexi Lafraniere. They missed out on some other guys over the last couple of drafts. Yet, here are the Detroit Red Wings. They have some Calder Trophy potential players, a defenseman, a forward. So we're going to be going over these rookies that have been taking over the hockey world up in Hockeytown. So we'll be taking a look at that today. So in terms of where we are at through the season, I believe this was back in the end of December going into this year. The most points among rookies in the 2021-22 NHL season. Two of the top three players are Detroit Red Wing players. So you have Lucas Raymond, who has 35 points, Trevor Zegras with 32, and Moritz Seider with 29. That was to start this season, to start this year in 22. So looking at the numbers at this point, it's pretty clear that these two guys are very, very talented. And again, they're top 10 draft picks, but they aren't the first overall pick, and that's where Red Wings fans were so frustrated because they weren't getting the first overall pick. It's not the first overall pick isn't always the best player in the draft. We've seen that plenty of times, right? So this may be an example of that right here. And speaking of that 2020 NHL draft, now again, I don't like doing this because fan bases get upset, and these three in particular are pretty passionate. And unfortunately, in the 2020 NHL draft, you look at the three teams that drafted before the Red Wings. Remember, the Red Wings had tanked in 2020. They were supposed to get the first overall pick, the Alexi Lafraniere sweepstakes, and everything went wrong. They were worst in the league, and they got jumped by three separate teams. One of which was the New York Rangers, who made the qualifier round and got beat up by the Hurricanes. They ended up getting the first overall pick. So the New York Rangers, the Los Angeles Kings and the Ottawa Senators, okay? Those are the three teams we're talking about. And if you know the order, you know how that top three went. From the Rimouski Oceanic, the same QMJHL team that Sidney Crosby went to, Alexi Lafraniere was drafted first overall by the New York Rangers. The second overall pick, the Los Angeles Kings, who moved up, kind of expected to be the next big guy in the NHL. Quentin Byfield, standing, I think he was at least 6'5", over 200 pounds, as a 17, 18-year-old prospect. There were high expectations for Byfield. So he was the second overall pick to the LA Kings. And the third overall pick was this kid named Tim Stützle from Germany. We see another German kid from Mannheim, from the Mannheim Eagles, coming to the NHL. So that is your draft order. Alexi Lafraniere to the Rangers, Quentin Byfield to the Los Angeles Kings, and Tim Stützle at third to the Ottawa Senators. Who was selected fourth overall in that draft? Well, that's the pick that the Detroit Red Wings had. Fourth overall, they selected Lucas Raymond, who was playing in the SHL and was a guy that people were very, very high on. This is a highly sought-after prospect, and the Red Wings were kind of looking at him kind of as a consolation prize. He was not their top guy that they wanted, so it was kind of easy to say, yeah, we were the worst team, and teams that basically made the playoffs, like the Rangers, jumped us in this format. We're boycotting that draft format, right? There was a lot of frustration back in 2020, especially for the Red Wings. And Steve Yzerman had appealed it. Like, he was not a fan of that draft situation. I'd love to know the call between Yzerman and the NHL. So let's look at these four players in particular. So the first one, which is Alexi Lafraniere, he played his first season, unlike Lucas Raymond. He played in 56 games. He picked up only 21 points, which was one of the, I'm not going to say the worst in this decade, really in this century, since 2000. But Jack Hughes was there, and he was really bad in the 2019-2020 season. He was the first overall pick in 2019. So through 100 games in the NHL, Laf has 34 points this season and is projected to get less points than he did last season under the system that was there last year. And he was playing in the bottom 6 at points last season, right? And David Quinn did give him the benefit of the doubt through most of the year. He was playing with Kreider. So that was, again, so 34 points. We're just looking at that, 34. Quentin Byfield played 6 games last season, 7 games this year. So he's only got 13 games in the NHL. He has 2 points. Again, but these are guys that were drafted before Lucas Raymond. Tim Stuchla, he is in his second NHL season. He played 92 games in his NHL career. He does have 50 points. So you look at the narrative here, in terms of point production, out of the top 3 right now, 2 years after that draft, Tim Stuchla has the best numbers. He has more points in less games than Alexi Lafraniere and more games in the NHL than Quentin Byfield. So that's 50 points. Now let's get to Lucas Raymond. Now, mind you, Stuchla did that in 2 seasons in Ottawa. Lucas Raymond, this season, the 4th overall pick behind those 3 other guys in 47 games this season, already has 35 points. Which means by the end of this season, if at this rate he continues where he's at, he will have more points than Alexi Lafraniere, the 1st overall pick, Quentin Byfield, the 2nd overall pick, and Tim Stuchla, the 3rd overall pick, who at this rate has 50 points in 2 full seasons. That just shows you how good Lucas Raymond has been for the Red Wings. And this is incredible. This is a really good sign of things to come for them. And again, for what was kind of frustrating that they got that pick, they did pretty damn well. Not to mention in 2019, they had another pretty interesting situation, drafting 6th overall in the 2019 NHL Draft. And there was some frustration there because they were the 3rd worst team. And again, they got knocked down a peg, drafting at 6, which again, to them felt like we got screwed, right? So now we get to the 2019 NHL Draft. So Jack Hughes, Kaapo Kakko, Kirby Dach, Bowen Byram, Alex Turcotte, and everybody was across the board, unanimously in the arena, shocked that the Detroit Red Wings took from Germany Moritz Seider. Moritz Seider was projected to be between 16 and 40. He was a very weird player in that regard. At the very best, he could be cracking the top 20. At the very worst, he could be a mid-second round pick. Moritz Seider moves all the way up to number 6, and Stevie Y pulling off his little Stevie Y magic, surprising everybody on the draft floor. A huge gasp across the arena. And you look at the numbers for Moritz Seider. Again, this is his rookie season. So in 47 games this season, mind you, as a defenseman, he already has 29 points in the NHL. You look at Alex Turcotte, who was drafted just before him by the LA Kings, 5th overall. He's only played in 8 NHL games and is yet to record a point. Still a very highly thought of prospect, but still, Turcotte's taking a while to develop. And again, this is 3 years now since he was drafted. Bowen Byram, a very highly thought of player, right? That was the Ottawa Senators pick. He's doing pretty well. He has 13 points in 37 games as a defenseman. He was drafted 3rd. He was drafted 2 spots ahead of Moritz Seider. And he's still at that same, he's got less points than him. Kirby Dach of the Blackhawks. He, in 3 seasons in the NHL, he has 48 points. Okay, so he's beating out, a center. He's got 3 years under his belt. He still has 10 more points than Moritz Seider. Kaapo Kakko, this is where things get a little more troubling. In 3 seasons for Kakko, he does have 54 points. But he kind of seems like a reclamation project at this point for the Rangers. And in 3 seasons for Jack Hughes, he is probably looking more like the Jack Hughes we were hoping for. He does have 27 points in 28 games. He has been a point-per-game player this year, but he still has 79 points in his NHL career. Again, through 3 seasons. And this draft is just so weird. When you look at the top 15, you've got Hughes at 1, Turcotte at 5, Seider at 6, Trevor Zegras at 9, who, along with Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, is projected to be one of the finalists. Trevor Zegras, mind you, was drafted 9th overall by Bob Murray and the Anaheim Ducks from the U.S. National Development Program. Right? So kind of interesting there. Guys, this is a great sign of things to come for the Red Wings. I think the Red Wings have done a really nice job with their directors of scouting, with their entire development team. I made a video about this probably about 2 months ago. It's already outdated because the Red Wings, since bringing in Nick Lidstrom, unfortunately Pat Verbeek, who I literally called the Ducks doing that. I said, Pat Verbeek, when there's another GM job, expect Pat Verbeek to be a name that gets thrown out there. He didn't last very long. Within a month, Pat Verbeek is now hired as the next general manager in Anaheim. So, again, take it with a grain of salt, but your boy picked it here first. So, with that said, there's a little bit of a change now because now they've got some different guys. You got Nicholas Lidstrom in there. You have Simon Gagne in there. You have a couple of interesting names in the Red Wings group. And I think that this is a good sign for them. This is Steve Yzerman taking the best of the best, bringing them in, and finding ways to make his scouting team really work. Because at the end of the day, that is the number one thing. You want to figure out guys that can develop and guys that you know this is what they are. You need a guy that can, or it doesn't take one person. It takes an entire group to figure out not only amateur scouting, but professional NHL scouting when your scouting team is going to games. What are they looking for? What fits our scheme? What is going to lead to success on our team with our staff, with Blashill? That is all a part of it, and you cannot deny that the Red Wings have used the 4th and 6th overall pick potential of Raymond and Seider. They have reached it to the max at this point. And there's going to be a lot of argument to say that Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond could be your Calder Trophy winners for Rookie of the Year in 2022, despite the innovation of Trevor Zegras this season and everything he's done in Anaheim. He's going to have some real competition there in Vegas at the NHL Awards this year. So guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Let's go Wings.